Hey everybody, happy day number 4. This is our bonus day. So as you come on, please do say hi and where you are coming in from. I sent out obviously the pre-submission form, which a bunch of you actually filled out, and which is great. There are a ton of questions that I have to get through today, which isn't a bad thing. The other thing I wanted to remind people, there were a few people that have already jumped into the LinkedIn Growth Hub, which I am so excited for you to be a part of that. Just a couple announcements. There's 4 more days left to sign up. This is actually the last time the membership is going to be offered at the current price. It is only $49 a month. You are locked into that price for life, however long you're a part of it. It's month to month, or people can pay in full and get 20% off. The pricing is going to go up about $15 a month in the new year. Whenever I do decide to open the doors again at some point next year, I don't know when. I only open the doors twice a year. So if you're looking to get the most bang for your buck, and just to kind of give you a sneak peek for those that are current members, there's a new masterclass that's dropping the first Monday of November, which is November 6th. And it's all about taking advantage of LinkedIn Creator Mode and how to do so. And that's the great thing about the LinkedIn Growth Hub, is it's in real time. So every single month, you're getting a brand new training on something that is currently working for me on LinkedIn. It's completely private. No one else is obviously getting that information. So again, if you'd like to dive in, there's 4 more days to sign up, $49 a month, month to month, cancel at any time. But also you can pay in full. And this is obviously, like I mentioned, the last time that it is going to be offered at this price. So if you're someone that wants to learn more about, obviously there's a current masterclass in there right now, all about deeper work with the LinkedIn newsletters. So if you really enjoyed yesterday's training on LinkedIn newsletters and you want to get more benefit and more tools as far as how to use it, setting it up and all of that, that's waiting for you right in the LinkedIn Growth Hub. So again, I'm going to drop the link in again. If you want to take advantage of it, would love to see you in there. Again, there's 4 more days to sign up. And I really, really highly advise you taking advantage of the current pricing, number one. But number two, you're not going to have to go anywhere else to learn about LinkedIn. That's what this hub is for. It's to provide you all of the updated and necessary information, obviously, on how to grow your business using LinkedIn. So type into the comments below before we get started, what has been the biggest takeaway so far from this week, from what you've learned about LinkedIn video, about LinkedIn newsletters, LinkedIn market research polls. So type in the chat, what has been the biggest takeaway for all of you so far this week? Obviously, this is our final day. Being consistent, absolutely. What to post? LinkedIn is so much more than I ever imagined. Absolutely. How easy it really is. Posting polls. Yep. Making connections, powerful tools for engaging, the power of LinkedIn, market research polls, newsletters, not as difficult. Yeah, I try to make this as easy as possible. Now, drop a Y or a yes in the chat if you feel that you would benefit personally from getting additional private monthly trainings from me on everything that needs to be done on LinkedIn. Good. Because again, that's exactly what the LinkedIn Growth Hub is all about. If you want that private information, if you want templates, if you want workbooks, if you want bonus trainings, all the things that have allowed us to grow the 7-figure company that we have, you're learning that in the LinkedIn Growth Hub. And yeah, Kathy said she joined. Awesome. So grateful to have you in there. And remember, there'll be 2 winners announced at the end of today before we finish. So like I mentioned, we have a ton of questions, but again, I am going to leave that link in there. Take advantage of it. So let's dive into all the questions. There are quite a few, And I promise that I am going to get to every single one. So this is from Joe. He asks, I've been posting every day for about 10 months. I'm going to implement the 3 types of posts you recommend. Any thoughts on what formats to use for the other 4 days? So what I'll say is this. I don't post 7 days a week. I post typically 6 days a week, and I've only recently kind of upped that. Now, when I'm, the recommendation that I have for people that want to do more, so kind of giving you my workflow, my LinkedIn workflow actually starts on Saturdays. So I do a LinkedIn market research poll on Saturday, which gives me content ideas for Monday when I do a LinkedIn Live. So I do a LinkedIn video on Monday. Tuesday, I either do kind of like a short form video, much like I posted, or I'll do some sort of written post based on some tips from the video. Wednesday, as I kind of went over with you guys yesterday, on day 2, I do a market research poll every Wednesday. Thursday, I do another video, usually a LinkedIn Live. And then Friday, I release my newsletter edition. So basically it goes Saturday poll, Monday video, Tuesday post, Wednesday poll, Thursday video, and then Friday, my LinkedIn newsletter. Now, again, if you can't commit to that, I don't expect you to. But I would say at a bare minimum, if you were all posting 3 days a week, you're going to be ahead of the game, like 100%. Now, second question, what is your overall connect, nurture, and conversion plan? I mean, that is a very, very wide range question. So for me, I'm always looking to grow my network. I don't like to sell and pitch on the platform at all. My number one focus is relationship marketing. So I focus on making as many friends and connections as possible. A lot of the sales that occur in the efforts of what we do happens on the back end of things. Very rarely is that done through me just reaching out to someone cold and hopping on a call. I never try to sell and pitch on that call. I always look to, engage that person, find out about their business. And again, then, share a little bit about what I do. And then if it's something that really hits home with them, guess what? They're going to want to learn more about me. A lot of the other things that actually come through with that, Joe, is that when I'm basically connecting with someone and they become a connection of mine, my LinkedIn profile acts as the homepage to a website. So I have links all over my LinkedIn profile where people can click and buy my book. They can click and download my free infograph. They can click and join my LinkedIn Growth Hub. So a lot of the sales that ends up occurring, even calls being booked, are from my LinkedIn profile. So the idea is to connect with the right people. When they see your profile, there's ways for them to connect with you offline and making sure you have those different offerings in place. Next question is, I can't see who is this from. Oh, this is from Suzanne. Is connecting with people who take polls in a LinkedIn group considered spammy? No. I tend to do that all the time. The fact of the matter is you're doing market research polls in groups to extract people from the group that could be a power partner, a business ally, or a potential client. And as long as you make a mention of why you're sending the connection request, meaning, you do a poll, people have voted, you click on the second connection that voted in your poll, you send them a connection request, you add the note, hey, thanks so much for voting in my poll in the mutual group that we're in, would love to connect with you here on LinkedIn. That is completely appropriate. And that is not seen as spammy whatsoever. Is it worthwhile to create your own LinkedIn group? So this is another great question. Suzanne asked this, and is it worthwhile? Sure. But for me, I don't like, and I do have my own LinkedIn group that I really don't, I don't really touch too much, because I would rather plug myself into a pre-existing group that has all of the right people already in it, where I can join, I can provide value added commentary and content instead of starting from scratch and trying to build it on my own. So not saying that it isn't worthwhile, but why create extra work for yourself? I would just find another group that is similar and aligned with what you do and just join that. All right. Good, Suzanne? Yeah? Okay, cool. Let's see. Next question from Elaine. Why do prospects connect and then stalk us? Watching and waiting. What are they waiting for? So there's more people online that are, I would say, watching and waiting than anything else. It's just the nurture process of how business is done. And LinkedIn groups can be private, by the way. So some LinkedIn groups, you actually have to request to join, and then the admin has to approve you. So they can be private. But as far as like that whole prospect, they connect, and then people want to build a know, like, and trust, and they don't want to be sold and pitched to. And that's why I really focus on building that know, like, and trust through the content that you're actually producing on LinkedIn, because that's what bridges the gap between someone who doesn't know you and what you do to someone who does know you and exactly what it is that you do. So again, people are spectating more than playing the game. You're playing the game, but there are many more people that are just sitting in the stands, just watching right along, waiting for their moment to enter the game. So you should not feel discouraged if there are people connecting with you and then you don't really hear from them, because that's just the normal habits of human beings. People have this fear mentality of being sold and pitched to, which they don't want. So they'd rather just sit back, watch, engage with your content. And then when the pain becomes great enough, obviously they know you're there, and obviously they can reach out to you then. So this next question, do you recommend posting a 30-second cover story video about you and what you offer and placing it in the featured section? Is this a popular strategy? So what I'll say is, it was until it was taken away. So LinkedIn disenabled this feature. I believe it was either July or August. So I took advantage of it right away. It's called the LinkedIn cover video. If you currently have one, which I do, it's going to remain there for life unless you remove it. So having that LinkedIn video cover story is exactly what you just said. It is to tell people who you are, what it is that you do, who you serve. Obviously, the only best way to do that now is, yes, you can, in the featured content section, you can put a little intro video where people can learn more about you. But the name pronunciation is also a 10-second audio clip where you can introduce yourself. A lot of people just use it as their name pronunciation, like Scott Aaron. Like, that's just kind of boring. Just give a little 10-second little clip. Hey, this is Scott. This is what I focus on. This is who I serve. Connect with me or send me a message. So since that has been disabled, I would then lean on the LinkedIn name pronunciation instead. Let's see. Next question. Hemda says, is it necessary to select verify when I am sending a connect message to someone who has voted in my poll? I've actually never seen the verify to send a connection request. The only thing that I've ever seen pop up is if you're sending a connection request to a second connection, they will ask you, would you like to add a note? Which, again, I always suggest adding a note in that case, mentioning exactly how you came to find them, what the connection point was, and you'll mention that in the note. The only time I've seen actually a verification recently is verifying your identity and verifying your LinkedIn profile, which I have recently done, and I advise all of you to do that. It just protects your account and makes sure that no one can hack it, and obviously it's an extra layer of security. Next question from Condordonk3, doesn't have a name. I'm very new to using LinkedIn, even though I've had an account open for years. My experience is in self-development process I created called Stop and Flow. SNF has helped thousands of clients and staff in addiction recovery, reduce pain, stress, and cravings. I've enjoyed consistent revenue business to business funding through my program, through grants, and I want to make new connections with new decision makers who can fund the program in their organizations, schools, justice centers, community orgs, as well as addiction treatment service centers as my target market. How do I find the best groups to join? I'm also interested in best practices for when clicking connect or follow. What message, if any, should I be writing in the request? Open to your course to learn the basics I'm asking about. This workshop has been excellent and very valuable. Thank you, Kristen. Awesome. Well, Kristen, obviously, yes, I go into much deeper work in the LinkedIn Growth Hub. So obviously you would get immediate value from that. As far as answering your specific questions that were in there, the best groups to join would be obviously finding, just searching for addiction groups, or find like anything that you want to search for, you can put into the search engine. And there's an extra filter where, again, you can filter by people, you can filter by company, you can filter by article, you can also filter by group. So depending upon the keywords that you're putting in there, you can find the exact group that houses the exact types of people that you would like to connect with in that specific group. Now, the secondary question was, what message should you be writing in the connection request when you send it? The only time, there's 3 instances where I recommend people to send a note. Obviously, you've heard my recommendation. If you end up connecting with someone from a group that you're in, you make mention of that. There's a lot of spam going on right now with people adding like verbal drunkalogs in the added note to a connection request. And again, that's an immediate like block and delete. The only time you ever want to add a note outside of the example that I just cited from the polls is if you actually know the person personally, like they are a friend, a colleague, you know them. Number 2, they make a mention of maybe of a referral. Maybe they were told to connect with you through another source and they make mention of that connection point name. And third and final is maybe you met them somewhere. You met them at a networking event. You met them at an event. You read their book. You listened to their podcast. You need to make a personal connection point. Outside of that, just send the connection request. You don't have to add, if the box is not checked in any of those examples, just send the connection request. Do not add a note, because again, the last thing that you want to do is come across spammy. Can I start 2 niche newsletters together? This is Faris's question. Can I start 2 different niches newsletters together? I never recommend doing anything of that nature. Anything that would ever cause confusion with a network that you're building on LinkedIn is just going to confuse people. Now, that being said, if the newsletter was catered to 2 different niches in one, where that was mentioned in the newsletter, like this is a newsletter dedicated to this person and this person, that's fine, because then the content is going to be catered to the double niche in the one newsletter. But creating 2 separate ones, well, number 1, you can't. You can only create 1 newsletter per profile. And number 2, that's just going to confuse the heck out of people. So I never recommend doing that. I'll have 1 singular market or combining 2 into 1. How do I achieve better engagement on polls? So a couple things. Number 1, making sure that you're building the right type of network. So a lot of engagement that happens on LinkedIn, whether it's engagement in your video, engagements in your polls, your newsletters, anything that you do is predicated on the type of people that are in your network. So if you're not getting much engagement, you might have the wrong connections. And this happens a lot of the time when people start out on LinkedIn. They do this spray and pray methodology where they're just clicking the connect button. They just want to get a bunch of connections for some odd reason. It doesn't work. You want to be hyper targeted and hyper focused with everything that you're doing on LinkedIn. So you have to really, if you're getting very, very low engagement, and I've seen people that have, 9, 10, 11,000 connections and their content gets 0 engagement. Now, and there's 2 reasons. Number one, their content stinks. And, again, that just happens. People they're not putting good content out there that's not resonating with their target audience. And number 2, they have the wrong target audience. So again, if you're asking questions that don't relate to your target market, are they going to vote? No. So the other thing that I want to say is the way that you get better engagement in your polls, ask very simple questions that require very simple answers that are directly connected to your target audience. If you're asking questions that are very unrelatable, and I've seen people when they post their polls, they're writing like 5 or 6 sentences. No one's going to read that. You want to create very short, simple, and succinct ways for people to read your content, vote, and move on. So those are typically the 2 main reasons why people are not engaging. Jill says, I have 100 LinkedIn connections. What is the best and fastest way to get to 150 so I can start sending out newsletter editions? I mean, again, every single person on here should be connecting with new people every single day. Now, I know a bunch of you have been a part of my workshops before. Who knows this answer? What's the most amount of connections you can send in a given 7-day period on LinkedIn? Let's see if you guys remember this. I know a bunch of you have taken my workshops before. 100. There it is. Yep. You can't go over 100. You do, you get dinged. You're going to get your account blocked and deleted. So you should be sending out up to 100 targeted connection requests a week. What you can expect from that is maybe a 20% acceptance rate. So for every 100 connection requests sent, you're probably going to get 20 new connections. So if you do the math, if you do that for 3 weeks, you'll have 150 connections. Next question. I do not yet have the LinkedIn site for my business, but I really want to take this route with LinkedIn. It's the next level for me to go. I start up the account, and then what's the first thing I should do? Pointers. This is from Melissa. The first thing that anyone should do, again, is, and again, people will say, just to kind of, as far as like the 100 connection requests per week, some people will recommend Sales Navigator, Recruiter, Premium. If you have not, and I want to be very, very clear with this, if you have not maximized the free version of LinkedIn, do not pay for anything on the platform. Because I still use the free version of LinkedIn. I've never paid for anything on LinkedIn. And I believe none of you ever should. That's just my honest feeling. If you do things the right way, you're never going to have to pay for anything on LinkedIn. That's what it's there for. Now, as far as that last question, the first thing that you need to do, obviously, is you need to optimize your LinkedIn profile, because that is basically the home base of everything that you do. That's where your recent content is stored. That's where your work experience is stored. That is where your accomplishments, your recommendations, courses, accomplishments about you, that is the best place to start. Because the mistake that people make is they sign up for a LinkedIn account, they do nothing with their profile, they start connecting, and they wonder why they're not getting results. Everything is predicated on how your LinkedIn profile is set up, because it needs to be set up the right way. This is also something that is covered in the LinkedIn Growth Hub for anyone that's wondering. And the fact of the matter is that if it's not set up the right way, the cake will topple over. So if you're just starting out, make sure you optimize your LinkedIn profile, filling out all the sections that it allows you to fill out. This is from Hilda. Did LinkedIn have some sort of kind of restructuring? I was off LinkedIn for about 6 months now, and then I go back. My page looks different. I do not see any of the groups that I was a part of, nor do I see my admin option. So LinkedIn, to my knowledge, hasn't changed any of that. The groups are always found on the top right of the desktop version under business. And when you click on the business tab, it drops down and you will see groups that are right there. And you can basically just click on the groups tab and it opens up all the groups that you're in, whether you're an admin or not. And Hilda's second question is, my current LinkedIn account is for MLM, for health and beauty, which I am still doing, but now I started a new project, totally different. I'm creating a digital course that has nothing to do with my current niche. Can I create a separate LinkedIn page or account for my digital course or niche? If not, what do you suggest me to do? Well, first and foremost, even if someone is in an MLM type of business, I never suggest promoting that on LinkedIn whatsoever. You don't want to sell products or goods linked to another company on the platform. That's more of a Facebook and Instagram type of tactic. If someone does have an MLM type of background, you always want to position yourself as the personal brand and as the business brand. So talking more about the benefits and obviously the outcome that people could have, number one. The second thing, if you're working on a new digital product, I would completely lean on that because that is 100% yours. You own the digital product, you own the course, it can never be taken away. I wouldn't delete the opportunity that you're currently in at all, but I would restructure your entire LinkedIn profile to focus on that digital course that you're creating. And then if it's being directed towards a different niche, then start changing out the content that you're producing, but also start connecting with different people that fit that niche market that you're now going to build. That is my best recommendation. Molly says, how can we make sure our ideal client is seeing our posts? Most of my current connections are people I network with, but not necessarily people who will hire me for my services. So any tips on how to make sure my ideal clients' eyes see my content? The best way and the best suggestion I have for that is, number one, making sure from a profession or service, I would say, perspective, you are connecting with the professionals and the industries that house your ideal client. That's number one. If you want the right eyeballs on your stuff, then you need to have the right people in your network. And the fact is, you can't force people to see your content. And that's why I'm all about making sure that I'm leaning on those market research polls, because that will automatically extract things that your network wants to know about. So depending upon your service and your offering, you always want to work backwards, meaning ask an overall question that leads to some of the things that you can talk about with the services, the products, and the benefits of what you offer, and then build your content strategy around that. And you'll get more people to engage because obviously you're solving problems that way. Second question, what is your take on audio events? Do you think live audio and video events should be something we should be implementing regularly? So I personally have not implemented the LinkedIn audio rooms as of yet. Again, that was brought about when Clubhouse came out in 2020. LinkedIn came out with their own. As much as I like the audio events, I'm just a visual person. I love connecting with people through video and voice. And I always suggest, and this is something that I always, people that are in our mastermind know this, that I always suggest people to do one LinkedIn live event per month, where you can basically, do that LinkedIn live event. You can house people in one direct area, and then you can do a training for those individuals. And we have a client in our mastermind that picks up new clients every single month. He does this, so I always recommend doing some sort of LinkedIn event once a month to nurture, build, and connect with your audience. It's a great way to do that. Someone said, will you be doing another course like this sometime in the future? Yes. Nancy and I always plan out our events. We haven't planned out 2024 yet. So this is the last one I know of right now for this, but obviously there should be things in the future, but I just don't know when. Which type of polls do you find the most effective in getting people to play along? That's from Joanna. I mean, that is a very, very wide question. I think that really depends on the person's business, their target audience, the network that they have. I mean, I know the network that I have built and the content that I provide. I know what questions to ask at this point because I've been doing market research polls for well over 3, maybe 4 years now. So that is something that you're going to have to kind of test on your own. And that's why I always recommend asking different questions each week. But an exercise that anyone can do is kind of writing down the known pain points of the people that are in your network, what they have, and then curating questions around it that you know people would then engage with it. So always start with the pain first. So, whether you give options or yes or no, that's completely predicated on the question that's being asked. Sometimes the poll question is best as a yes or no answer. If there's a deeper, I would say, response needed for the question, then you're going to give written responses. So I think it's, I do both. Sometimes I'll do yes or no. Sometimes I will do written answers. And her second question was, my video had way too much animation, arm movements, modulation of my speech, etc. What is a good rule of thumb to look professional, but also incorporate my animated personality? You're talking to the wrong person, because part of the Jewish culture is to talk with our hands, just like Italians. So if anyone sees any of my LinkedIn lives, you're seeing my hands flail away. I always start my videos like this. I would always be yourself. I would not curtail yourself to other people. If you wave your arms around and you do a lot of pointing, be you. Like, again, if people don't like it, they're not going to watch, so let them watch someone else. So do not change how you go about things. I don't think not modulating your arms compared to modulating your arms makes a person less or more professional. I think it's just letting your personality shine. So I would recommend just letting your light shine. Christo says, hi, Scott. I have issued 6 newsletters this year, but have had no comments at all, just likes. Do you recommend I contact them directly with a question, for example, of what they liked about the issue, just to get the conversation going, like I did for the first time with a poll after your presentation, and I booked 1 meeting from that. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, with LinkedIn newsletter editions, what I'll tell you is that there are some that I put out there. Yeah, I mean, they still get 2, 3, 4,000 views, 10, 15, 20 likes. Some get comments, some don't. Some people just aren't engaged to comment. It's just who they are. Now, with that in mind, never hesitate to personally reach out to people, not to ask them what they thought about it. If they engaged but didn't comment, meaning they just liked, they loved, whatever it was, just send them a nice gratitude message. Hey, Christos, thank you for engaging in my most recent LinkedIn newsletter edition. Glad that you found it helpful, and I appreciate you and your support. You just leave it at that. So just love on people, just leave them better. And again, I do 2 call to actions. I do a call to action in the actual newsletter itself. And as you guys saw yesterday, I do a secondary call to action in the blurbit above the post of the LinkedIn newsletter. So that's another way to get people to engage. Second question to that, Christo says, I have 1,320 subscribers to my newsletter. Does LinkedIn send emails to any of my new issues to all my 6,000 plus existing connections, or just to the subscribers? And what of any new connections? I'm cheating and putting other questions. Should the banner always be the same uniformity? So far, I used photos relevant to the content, and I already have your book. Awesome. So number one, I like uniformity. So I am big on brand recognition. That is something that I always teach and train on. Change the just different title that you can embed through Canva, like I showed you guys yesterday. And LinkedIn only sends out the newsletter edition notification to your subscribers. So it's not going to send them out to your other connections. And this is also a secondary reason why it's important to continue to build your connections every day on LinkedIn. Anytime someone accepts your connection request, they get an automatic invitation to subscribe to your newsletter. So if you want to increase your subscription list, keep connecting with people. That is a big thing. How can I, this is from Shanta, how can I avoid coming across salesy? Just don't be salesy. I mean, there's really, I think people know the big difference between being salesy and not. There's two recommendations that I always give people is number one, always be a person of value with everything that you do in your content, meaning giving without asking for anything back in return. And then second to that, if you are doing, relationship marketing calls where you're networking with people offline, it's almost best. It's okay to talk about what you do and how you help people, but refraining from giving a sales pitch at the end, like would you like to join, or would you like that? So really doubling and tripling down on creating as many business allies as possible. And I think each one of us knows what it's like to be sold and pitched to and how that feels. And just remember that feeling. And again, I've said this before in prior trainings that I've done. Always take things through the smell test, right? Before you post something, before you send a message, put it through the smell test. If it stinks, don't send it. I think we know if we're writing a good post and it's going to come across well, or if we're going to send a message, if it's going to come across bad or not. And the second thing I'll say to that is never message people the way that you would not like to be messaged yourself. I think if you kind of follow those guidelines and those rules of thumb, you will never come across salesy. Shanta's second question, the screenshot step-by-step of doing the video on the desktop. That is something, I don't have the slides up right now, but the desktop version, there's on the replay, if you guys go into the guide section, in the Facebook group, you can watch the replay of day number 1, which has all of that in there as well. It's pretty self-explanatory as far as when you record the video on Zoom, it obviously saves to your downloads, and then you just have to start a post on LinkedIn. It's going to ask for a piece of media, and then basically going from there. So I would say go back and watch day number 1. That's going to be the best tutorial for you, because that's what I went over it. Let's see. Melanie says, what do you think about auto response messages after someone connects, and how do you create those? I never recommend those because it violates the user agreement on LinkedIn. So when we all sign up for an account on LinkedIn, there's two things that we're not allowed to have people do. Number one, we can't have people log into our account as us, meaning like a VA or an assistant, because basically that's messing up the IP address of obviously of when you open the account. Number two, we can't have any automated software that connects in messages for us. That is a one-way ticket to getting your account blocked and deleted. So that's why everything has to be done organically and by hand. And simple rule of thumb, if people can't block out 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm just going to mute everybody. If people can't take 20 minutes to organically connect with people, message a few people, produce a piece of content, LinkedIn may not be the platform for you. So I'm a big believer in sending connections without notes. And I'm also a big believer in sending very genuine and authentic connection messages to people once they do become a connection of yours, just to get to know one another. Relationship marketing should be the #1 priority of what you're doing on LinkedIn. And Melanie's secondary question, I noticed there are multiple places you could potentially use hashtags. Where do you recommend using them, and how many on each? For example, should you use them on polls? Yes, every single post that you do, not the poll itself, but after the poll is created, and then it'll say something about this. You always use 3 is the magic number for hashtags on LinkedIn. So whenever you're ending your content, whether it's a post, whether it's a poll, whether it's your newsletter article, you always want to use 3 hashtags that relate to the content. So you'll notice mine are hashtag LinkedIn tips, #business tips. So they should be overarching themes of the content that you're producing. Michelle, are the newsletter articles 3 to 5 minute read a good enough length for a company blog? Yes. So I believe in curating content that caters to the attention spans or the lack of attention spans that people have nowadays. So most of my newsletter editions are anywhere between 2 to 4 minutes in a read, because I want to really make sure that people can digest the content, learn from the content, and apply from the content. So if your newsletter editions are 3 to 5 minutes in length, they will absolutely be fine for a company blog. No doubt about it. Anna asked, I have a lot of contacts on LinkedIn that aren't in my target market due to adding them because I was working a sales job and needed to connect. Should I clean up my account and remove people or not worry about it? So this really depends how many connections you have. Obviously, you're allowed 30,000 connections. So if you're in that kind of like 1 to 5,000 connection range, I wouldn't worry about it. Just because you're allowed 25,000 more connections on top of targeted connections. Now, if you're in that, like, I would say 6 to 10K plus connections of all the wrong people, yeah, I would start to flush some of those down the toilet. I would start to remove some of those connections that aren't in your target audience and then start building on top of them. Lori says, what was your first monetized offering on LinkedIn? How long did it take for you to turn a profit? I mean, this is an interesting question because it didn't take me much time at all. I would say I was doing online wellness consulting for business professionals. That was back in 2013. I would say it took me a few weeks. And it was me, just a matter of connecting with the right people, having the right connections, but also providing relevant content that was filling in the gaps and holes that people were having in the specific issues they were having. And again, obviously that's changed over time to everything that we're doing now. But you know, we still generate sales each week on LinkedIn from everything that we're doing. So if it's done right, and obviously there's a learning curve that's different for each person. There are strategies that are different for each person, and everyone has different offerings. So I think it really depends on the person, the audience, and the offering. There's a different timetable for all of that, but I do know that when people stay in the game, they're going to get the desired result whenever that outcome may be. So yeah, that's a great question though. Let's see. Next question. This is from Dana. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Is the newsletter the same as a LinkedIn article? If not, what are the differences and why do you recommend a newsletter over a weekly post or an article? So I don't recommend any one over the other. A LinkedIn article is an unsegmented long form piece of content on the platform. So basically when you produce a LinkedIn article, it just goes out to the general network of LinkedIn. So it's not targeted to specific people. When you create a LinkedIn newsletter, it's actually LinkedIn is then curating your specific connections to subscribe to it so they can target and market to them. So you're always going to get more engagement from a targeted newsletter than a general article. And then, I mean, it's no different than anything else. When you have a targeted segment of connections that are subscribing to a newsletter, you're going to get more engagement. And I don't, I don't tell people not to do posts on LinkedIn. You can absolutely do posts, you can do videos, but newsletter editions are probably one of the biggest game changers on the platform, because your LinkedIn is inviting every single connection that you currently have. And then obviously, as you have the newsletter going, it's going to promote it to the My Network area. But as you build your network on LinkedIn, LinkedIn automatically sends out invitations for people to subscribe. So I always 100% of the time recommend a newsletter over an article, always. And the secondary question, I've been posting about 1 year on LinkedIn and have tried writing several articles. It seems via impressions and likes that the posts get much more traction and visibility than longer articles. I've heard colleagues share the same results. How then is better to write longer piece of content via article newsletter? So you'll find everyone will find this. Like my posts get nowhere near as much engagement as my LinkedIn newsletters. My LinkedIn newsletters are one of the biggest engaging forms of content that I produce, because again, you are getting a targeted segment of people that are being notified of when it's being released. As I mentioned yesterday, LinkedIn sends a notification to every single one of your LinkedIn connections as they subscribe and as a new edition comes out, and they are emailed. So my articles, for example, got zero engagement. I mean, nothing. I mean, it was like literally a ghost town. As soon as I started my LinkedIn newsletter editions, boom, I mean, skyrocketed. So always do a newsletter over a regular article. How do you monetize? This is from JMK_Elm Doctor. That's a long Outlook email. How do you monetize your newsletter and other parts of LinkedIn? So the best way to monetize your efforts specifically on LinkedIn for a newsletter is having a call to action. So having an embedded link in that newsletter, and much like I showed you guys yesterday, that when someone clicks on it, it's going to take them wherever you want it to go. And just to give you an example, if I were to in my newsletter edition, I said, for more information, check out my website here. They click on the website. It's going to take them to my website. There's an immediate pop-up that says, want to optimize your LinkedIn profile? Click here for my free download. They put in their name and email. They get delivered that free email, right? So it has the PDF of that. And then again, then they're upsold to either a course or a membership. And that is one of the best ways to obviously monetize LinkedIn. So it's always good to have things set up and have your funnel on the outside of that. But I openly promote my LinkedIn Growth Hub membership right in the featured content section when the doors are open. But I've also written 5 books. So all of those are also available for purchase right from my LinkedIn profile, because people can click on the publication, go right to Amazon, and you can create sales that way. So a lot of what happens as far as monetization of LinkedIn happens on the back end. So it is so important to make sure that you have a website in place, you have a free opt-in in place, you have an email capture system in place, and you have a nurture and some sort of funnel sequence in place as well. All right, so we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 more questions, and then I can open it up if there's time left. What's your suggestion on engaging in posts, i.e. frequency? So I always suggest at least once to 2 times or once a day, go into maybe 1 or 2 people's content that you resonate with and engage. Throw it a like or some sort of reaction, and then write a comment. But just don't write great post with like a thumbs up emoji. You actually want to provide relevant commentary to the person's post. So there's 2 types of comments. There is relevant comment and newest comment. You want to be a relevant comment because what LinkedIn does, it bumps up your comment to the first thing that people will see, which gives you, your profile, and your business visibility. So 1 to 2 times a day, I would go in and only comment on people's stuff that you resonate with. Don't just go commenting on whoever. It's got to be related. There has to be some sort of mutual energy of relatability between you and that other person. And I love the question. What about posting more frequently each week than the 3 video poll newsletter? Do we develop our own sweet spots, try and test? Yeah. I mean, again, just don't post more than once a day. I never post on Sundays just because I only do a poll on Saturday, but that's pre-scheduled anyway. As long as you're getting content out, I would say Monday through Friday, but you can find your sweet spot. I love doing 2 polls, 2 videos, 1 post, and 1 article or 1 newsletter per week. That's what works for me. I believe if you start with the foundation of 1 video, 1 poll, 1 newsletter edition, and then build on top of that, again, to that person's, example, I think that was Cassie. You can find kind of like your own rhythm within that. Joanna, is there a way to find out what groups our connections are in? Yeah. So if you go into your into the top business part of LinkedIn, where the drop down menu allows you to go into your groups, if you actually click on the groups, it'll actually, when you go visit that group, it'll show you the connections that you have that are in those groups that are shared. It shows it right at the top, so you can then connect with those people that way. Final question. My polls are getting less than 10 impressions. What am I doing wrong? Just because you're not getting many impressions doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Again, impressions are also related to the topic, the size of your network, and also the types of connections that you have. So again, you kind of have to kind of play around with it in the sense that it's a consistency is the game, meaning you have to just do your due diligence, do some split testing, find out what's working, what's not, and you'll see your impressions slowly start to increase. And again, that just takes time. So again, I'm going to drop into the chat. We have about 9 minutes left. A lot of what was asked today, some of the deeper content. So if anybody does want to continue learning, obviously, the LinkedIn Growth Hub doors are open. I would love to see you guys take advantage of that. This is the final time that it's going to be open for the foreseeable future. I have not planned when it's going to open again. And this is also the final time that it's going to be offered at this price point, only $49 a month, or people can pay in full for the year. So if you're looking to continue to learn from me, Joanna joined. Awesome. Grateful to have you a part of the group now. And again, for those that are interested, I have a new training coming out that's going to be all about taking the advantages of LinkedIn Creator Mode and how to do so and what you need to do. So it is the deeper work that a lot of people don't talk about on LinkedIn and you don't see, that's what's provided in the LinkedIn Growth Hub. So we have a few minutes left. If anybody has any additional questions, you can use your, I guess the hand emoji to raise your hand. And I will field as many as I can till we get to the top of the hour. And I do have 2 winners to announce at the very end. So if you have a question, just use your raise a hand emoji and then I can call you out and you can ask your question. It's easier that way at this point instead of me. I've read a bunch. So any questions, just raise your little hand. Deb.
I forgot that I was trying to copy and paste my question. I had a couple of questions. One was I had a notification today that someone, probably from a named competing company, a health and wellness company, looked at my profile today because it said the name of the company, but it didn't say who. And I'm thinking it's probably someone that was formerly in my company. And how did they have a feature that I couldn't see that? Because I even see people who are trying to recruit me, and I'm a retired nurse and I don't want to be recruited for different companies.
Well, that's actually that's a LinkedIn tactic. So that's a way that they get you to try to upgrade to LinkedIn Premium so you can see who's viewed your profile. I could care less who's viewing my profile. I think that's kind of creepy when people just stalk your profile. So I wouldn't even pay attention to that feature. That's just LinkedIn's way of trying to get you to pay for premium.
Yeah, they probably know that I'm in health and wellness and that I have. I mean, I know who it could be and it's no problem, but
yeah, I wouldn't even worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, you mentioned that we could go to a place and like I used to work at a certain hospital or certain hospitals in California or in Kansas or whatever. And if I tried to join that hospital, whatever, and then you said someone might be able to see my stuff. I mean, my target market is health professionals. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to get tons of stuff asking me to work, but will my health professional people then be able to see my stuff in those particular places? Or I don't know how it works. You mentioned something about it in passing.
What do you mean joining hospitals?
Well, you were saying to join I thought you said
Groups.
make a connection. Oh, you're talking about actual groups.
Yeah. I mean, there's health professional groups, there's nursing groups. Like I would
Right.
joining those. I mean, I highly doubt that like maybe a hospital has their own LinkedIn group, but I would say if there's nursing professionals, healthcare professionals, those groups definitely exist, and I would suggest joining those.
Yeah, I'm in several. Thank you.
You're welcome. Elaine.
Hi. Thank you so much, Scott, for all your help with this 3 days, these 4 days of support. I have about 15,000 contacts on LinkedIn. I have 3 private groups, but I can't seem to get those groups to work like they used to. Used to be able to have your own private group, and then people would engage, and then I'm not able, but I get hundreds of people wanting to join those groups. And I'm like, why are they wanting to join the groups and the groups are not working? So I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that.
Well, I would, the only thing that I have seen work inside of groups, whether it's someone's own group or someone else's group, are poll questions. So what I would do is I would start asking relevant poll questions to the groups that you have.
Excellent.
That's it. I mean, questions lead to answers. So I'm a big believer in that.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Melanie.
Hi, Scott. Yes, thanks so much for a great 4 days. It's been really wonderful and much less intimidating. I have a question. I didn't know until you mentioned earlier that you can't have 2 different newsletters that go out under the same profile.
Correct.
But if my newsletter name, I'll just make it simple and say, how to help realtors make more money, right? Whatever. And if there's 2 very distinct ways to do that, and I want to find the people that like one way versus another way, can I just have the same name for the newsletter, but then choose a different audience, a different group, for example, if I was sending them out to groups or subscribers? I guess I'm confusing groups and subscribers.
Well, no, I mean, you would invite, obviously you would build your network to both of those niche markets that would resonate with one and the other. But what I would do is I would alternate, if you're doing a weekly newsletter, I would alternate your newsletter editions, one catering to one and then the other catering to the other. So doing 2 editions that are dedicated to the one niche and then doing the 2 other dedicated to the other niche, because then you can have some overlap and some crossover, and whoever wants to read it, they're going to read it.
Right. But how do I get subscriptions by niche? I guess I can't. Right.
Well, again, when you're doing your LinkedIn like connection reach out, you should be connecting with people that fit one of those 2 niche markets, because when they accept your connection, they're also invited to then subscribe to your newsletter automatically.
But how do I keep them straight? Which one was responding to which thing?
You can't. It's everything is, because again, I have multiple niches within what I do. But it's all segmented in one subscription list.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We got time for one more question. Elaine.
Yeah, one last question. Sorry. LinkedIn Live, it doesn't work by itself. You got to connect it to something else. Do you remember the name of the program so that you can bring people on as like a radio show, like a panel discussion?
Yeah, there's 2 that are easiest to use. One is called StreamYard, which is what I use. And the other is Restream. Both have free versions. I'm just privy to StreamYard. It's amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So again, one last time, I am going to drop the link for anyone that would like to join the LinkedIn Growth Hub. The doors are open until Monday evening. It's the final time I'm offering it at the $49 a month rate. Cancel at any time. And again, we have a brand new masterclass coming up on all things LinkedIn Creator Mode. That's LinkedIn newsletters, LinkedIn Live, audio events, follow feature, all that stuff is going to be included in that training. So again, if you're ready for all of that and more, obviously, take advantage of that, because it's also, I go over LinkedIn philosophy, systematizing what you do, but also lead and sales generation tactics. So you're going to get a smattering of so much of what needs to be done to monetize your efforts on LinkedIn. So don't wait. Please join. Now, The other thing that I want you guys to know is that the replays of this are available until Monday. So just remember that you can go into the guide section on LinkedIn and you can check this out. And then again, a lot of the things that we covered today, they're for those that are a part of the LinkedIn Growth Hub. So say you wanted to learn more deeply about newsletters, there's already a training in there under LinkedIn features and updates. So you can kind of dive into that. So there are 2 winners to be announced. These are going to get access to one of my online courses, The 5 Layers of LinkedIn. Lori Kinney and Joe Walsh. There's nothing you need to do. I have your email addresses. You will get a notification that you were picked. The 2 Amazon gift card winners, you will be getting that via email. And then Kathy and Joanna, both, obviously, you guys sent me that email to my support email. Thank you. I have your email address or your physical addresses, so you will be getting the autographed copy of my book as well. So again, I just really appreciate all of the questions that you guys asked. It's always nice when there is so many questions because that means you guys are intrigued. Again, if you guys are ready for more, again, I don't want to see anyone let this opportunity pass you by. If you've gotten so much out of these first 4 days, just imagine what it would be like to get a private monthly masterclass with me. There's always a live training. I do other private trainings for the LinkedIn Growth Hub in a private Facebook group. And again, it's one of those things where I really want to provide the most value, but also give you guys all the tools and the keys to succeed in whatever you would like to do. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, the replays are available until Monday when the doors to the LinkedIn Growth Hub do close. Again, if your name was announced, you'll be getting all the stuff sent to you via email or physical mail. But again, I appreciate all of you so much. I hope you took a ton of value from